Hey guys, welcome to the second part of the JQuery crash course on DOM manipulation. Let's get started. Okay, let's see another JQuery method for DOM manipulation. And in this case, we're going to review the append method. And the append method allows you to insert content or an HTML element inside a specific element or elements that are already part of the document. In this case, I created a sports list here using divs. So let's say that I want to append some content at the end of this item. We can do that using the append method, like this. $sign. Remember that the $sign is our way to access to the JQuery library. Here I can add a selector and I can use the class of the element that we want to append or we want to insert some HTML content. And here I can use the append method and I can pass the HTML that I want to include. Let's say that I want to add a paragraph at the end. This is tennis. I'm going to save this. And as we can see, I'm going to inspect this element. And as you can see, now we have at the end of this element, we have this paragraph. This is tennis. We can also do this by selecting another element. Let's say that I want to append this title within the div of class sport. I can do something like this. I can use this JQuery selector again here, and I can add an element selector. I can use, in this case, h2 to get this heading and insert it at the end of this div of class sport. I'm going to save. And now, as we can see in the document, we have the div container, we have the div sport, and at the end, we have the h2 that we selected using this sentence here. And here we have the heading sports by using the selector that we included here in the append. And this applies to not just one element, but all the elements that have this class. Let's say I add another sport. I save this, and it will also add the same element to this second div that we have here. We also have another method that is similar to the append, that is called append2, and it's pretty much the same function, but we need to change the place where we pass the parameters. So here I can, first I put what is the element that I want to append, and the argument for the append2 function, it's going to be the element that I'm going to append this h2, in this case, sport. And we get the same result. The only thing that changes is the way that we call this function. In the append, we pass the selector and then the content, and in this case, we pass the content and then we pass the selector. We can also use element selectors, so we can use something like this. This is my paragraph. Let's use a paragraph. and we can use an ID as the selector. Div ID equals test. And here I can say, okay, append the paragraph. Append the paragraph to the test div with the test ID. And we get the paragraph at the end of the div with the ID equals to test. And then we have the prepend method that is pretty similar to the append. The only difference is that the prepend is going to add the contents at the beginning of the element. First, we enter the selector. In this case, it's a class selector. It's going to be sport. And then we prepend an HTML element there. We save this, and as we can see, we have the container, we have our div with the class sport, and then we have this span before the text. In this case, is tennis. If we add another one, let's say soccer, and we save, we also prepend the test span here before the text, in this case, soccer. And prepend to is the same idea that the append to. We need to change the order of the elements. So we say prepend to the elements with the sport class, like this. And here we put the content that we want to prepend. So let's say that we want to prepend the H2 heading. We save this. And we have our div class container with our two elements, and on each of these elements with class sport, we have an H2 that is this one that we selected by this HTML element here. Then we have another two methods that are pretty similar. One is the after method, and the other one is the before method, where we add elements before and after a specific element or set of elements. Let's say that I want to insert a paragraph after each div with the sport class. I'm going to enter here what is first the selector. There's going to be the sport class. And here I say after. And here I enter the paragraph. I say this. And as we can see, we have the container, and then we have the div, and after the div we have this new paragraph, and the same after this div we have the paragraph again. And the other function that is pretty similar is before, and this is going to insert this paragraph before each element. I'm going to say this. And as we can see here, we have the paragraph before each div with class sport. There is another JQuery method that is called CSS, and we can use it to get style properties from an object. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to add some style to this element. This is not a good practice, it's just for this example. So I'm going to assign blue as the background color of this div element, and I'm going to add a function here just to get the color of this div. I can remove the class. I'm going to use the element selector here, and I can do something like this. $, div.css, and I can console log this value. And of course I need to add the property. I'm going to copy the property from here. Okay, let's go to the console. Here we get the background color property value. And we enter the RGB value here. We can see that we get this blue color. There is another JQuery method that allow us to remove all child nodes of one element or a set of elements. So for example, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to assign a class named container, and I'm going to add some elements here. And let's say that I want to empty all the elements with class number. So I can do something like this. I use the JQuery selector by class name. I save this, and as we can see here, we removed all the text node that was inside each of these div elements. And let's say that I want to remove all the content within the container div. I can use the container class as the selector. If I save this, no, first let me do this. Let me save this, refresh, and now we can see that we have all the elements. I'm going to now put the container as the selector, and then use the empty function to remove all the elements within that container div. I'm going to save this, and now as we can see, we only have the div container with no elements within it. There is another JQuery method, actually two methods, add class and remove class, and will allow us to add CSS classes to our elements. So I'm going to remove this container here, and let's just keep these two divs. I'm going to remove these classes from them. I can use the element selector, and I can use the add class method, and I can assign any class or classes. Class 1, class 2, class 3. If I save this, and if we inspect, we have the two divs with these three classes assigned to each of the divs. And we can also remove classes. So if we use the remove class method, let's say that I want to remove just the class 3. I put that class to be, in order to remove that class from the divs. And now we have the two divs with only class 1 and class 2. There is another JQuery method named toggle class that basically will allow us to add or remove a class depending on the existence of that class. So if the element has the class assigned to it, it will remove it. And if the element doesn't have the class, it will append it. So let's see an example. Okay, in this case, I created a class named main, and I assigned the font size to 120% and the color as red. And I'm adding a button here, and every time we click a button, the class of these paragraphs is going to toggle. Remember that if the class is assigned to the paragraph, in this case, it's going to remove it, and if not, it's going to assign it. So every time that we click, we're going to see the change between the font size and the color of the text here. So if I click, as we can see, we have the class main assigned to each paragraph. And if we click again, it's removed. So the font size and the color change to the default that is black. There you go. Those are some other methods that JQuery provides to manipulate the HTML DOM. This is Enrique with pragmaticreviews.com signing off. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I see you guys in the next one.